Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we are going to be looking at Jiafeng, and I believe I'm pronouncing that right. It's Jiafeng? Could be wrong, I do apologise. But we're going to be looking at this character who is a brand new promo character. She is a 5-star ascendable, obviously. This is what she looks like as a 5-star. As you can see, she kind of looks like, I don't know. She's been through the wars a little bit, but she looks like she's been in a kitchen or something like that. And then when she gets upgraded to the 6-star version, she becomes just like half a tree. I don't know what she's got on her back, like reeds. I'm not sure what that's going on there. But she's got all the meat hooks still going. She is an alert character as well, and it looks like she's got a fast weapon. If you remember back to Sawyer, who was a fast character who had that meat hook as well. But the animation of Jiafeng, she actually throws this, kind of like the alert Sandy does with the throwing knives. It does look kind of cool, but it's kind of just really strange that she's an alert character, but that's the way it is. Now of course there still is no way to see her base stats. She is still going to have maxed out veterans gear stats here. However, using Lady Geek's compare stat, I've reversed her stats back down to what they should be as a maxed out 6-star, and we're looking at 1,505 attack, 1,720 defense, and 2,150 HP. So obviously massively leaning towards that HP. This character reminds me a lot of Zachary, just based on the fact that she is still seen as a damage dealer within her role, but her attack stat is severely, you know, underpowered. And this is because she doesn't need it. She doesn't do any attack damage, just like Zachary. She has no percentage stats. She's all bleed and all effect. And there's a lot of impact from this stuff. Now she is an alert character, like I said before. When she's got 30 maxed out veteran rings, you know the stats is going to be boosted up to 2,114 attack, 2,236 defense, and 2,666 HP. So obviously that HP is going to get nicely boosted up. We'll go across to an Adrenaline Rush, and it is called Butcher's Hook. It is a 58 AP cost rush, so very fast. Up to 3 enemies get 500 bleed damage and 300 exhaust for 3 turns. Those enemies get 200 hemorrhage damage, which increases each turn by 150 bleed damage per turn. This is just like the specialist skill hemorrhage, so it's now happening on certain rushes. So she's basically a double specialist in the fact that when she gets her rush off, and it's guaranteed, so it doesn't even have to crit, it's just going to happen. I think you actually can resist this, because I think it is considered a bleed. Now exhaust, the way that works, as we saw on previous characters, for every 10% of AP gained via things like specials, like actives, or on rushes, that will deal 300 damage. So on someone who gains 100% AP back, it would deal 3,000 damage. I did do the roadmap earlier, and as you can see, this happened to Fast Governor, who obviously has 100% AP gain on his rush, and he instantly took 3k damage because of that 300 exhaust. So against the right type of character, it's very strong. It will do damage regardless, even if it doesn't do huge amounts, against someone who does a 20, 25, 30, 35% AP gain active or rush. But it has the potential to one-shot certain characters if their HP is not high enough. Now I'll move across to the active skill, and this is where something new comes into the game. Of course, it's going to be within, you know, a promo character where something new comes into the game. Hopefully, unlike a lot of other things, it does get a bit more widespread usage within the rest of the game. It would be nice to have a character that has some of the new stuff too, you know, like slow, that sort of thing, but we'll see in the future. It has an initial cooldown of 2. It's called Trauma and Bleed, and this is obviously the trauma part of it is the brand new part. Initial cooldown of 2. Cooldown of 3, so you can get off quite quickly, and it has a number of uses 5, and it does 800 trauma and 400 bleed for 3 turns to a line of enemies. Now we know what bleed does. Obviously that's going to bleed someone for 3 turns. That's going to be 1,200 damage over those 3 turns. It can be lacerated, so it can be doubled, and then doubled the next turn, and then doubled the next turn, so it can go up to pretty high amount of damage, that bleed. Now what trauma does is, for every single effect on a character that gets cleansed while that trauma is up, it will deal 800 damage. So if someone cleanses that bleed from the active, it will do 800 damage to the character. A character, let's say like Gabriel, who has a full cleanse, or Mackenzie, who has a full cleanse, cleanses this character, and they have, say, bleed and burn, it would do 1,600 damage. If they had bleed, burn, and let's say defense down, it would do 2,400 damage. If they had bleed, burn, defense down, attack down, it would do 3,200 damage. And this can be seen in the roadmap where I tested this out. You can see that Glenn has 4 effects against him, the 4 effects mentioned. He has bleed, burn, defense down, and attack down, and he took 3,200 damage. And then you can see that Wayland only had 3 of those effects and took 2,400 damage. This is very consistent and pretty much counters a lot of these full cleanse characters, the likes of Mackenzie, the likes of Gabriel. Unfortunately, Gabriel, who has been just recently sold via the comics, and I know a lot of people have picked him up. So I think he's going to be a lot less useful than he was on defense teams, but I don't think his usage was on defense teams really anyway. I think he had a bit more usage just going on some attack teams and just being that like full cleanse, pick up, maybe even a potential leader on certain bleed teams. So that's how trauma works. It is powerful, but it will only have real niche usage, and most of the time it will probably only counter like the odd cleanse. For instance, you put 800 trauma on someone who has impair, they get their impair cleansed, it will do 800 damage. It's not that big a deal, but it'll do a little bit of damage here and there. But it massively counters these full cleanse characters if you've got a team that does a lot of different effects. Now when we come to the specialist skill, she does obviously have Lacerator, which is one of the better specialist skills in terms of just the current meta of S-class characters. One of the best ways to take them down is with Lacerators, with bleeds, and she's bringing all of that. Bleeds, lacerate, she's got the trauma, the exhaust, so she's going to be doing quite a lot of damage just based on these effects, and she's doing no percentage damage anywhere, like you can see. So that's why her attack stat is so low. She just doesn't need it. And this is where the major question comes up with her weapon, because she has 30% attack on her weapon, which makes no sense, if I'm honest. It really has me scratching my head, because the rest of the character looks so well made towards this build. They must have put the 30% attack on there on purpose for you to have to replace it, which again, like I say, it doesn't make any sense in my head. You would not need this in any single way. There's no benefit to having extra attack. So that's a shame. So you're only going to be able to get a 35% stat on a defensive stat, be it HP or defense, and you are going to go for, I assume, very large / huge on attack just to get that rush off as often as possible. Then again, because she has quite fast AR rush, if you've got an AP leader and you know consistently you're going to attack with an AR leader, you do not need to have AP on attack to get her a 3rd turn rush. So it's up to you at that point. Now when it comes to a 3rd slot special, it's brand new, obviously, very nice, but it is only usable against certain types of characters, i.e. characters with high HP. And it says, when attacking, 100% chance to deal 500 bleed damage for 3 turns when the enemy's HP is more than 75%. So obviously if all of the enemy team have 74% HP or lower, this 3rd slot active will do nothing. But on that first turn, she can get that off, which is actually really useful if you want to attack with a double Lacerator team. She can go first, you can attack with all your other teammates afterwards if they've got maybe bleed on their combat mods, maybe another bleed on weapons, let's say Michelle, and then you have like a Shiva at the end, and then you can lacerate everything out. You're guaranteed to lacerate this 500 to 1,000. Shiva could add 400, and then in between you could have like Michelle put 400 on as well, and that 500 plus 400 would get lacerated to 1,800. So there is nice potential to get a lot of 1st turn bleed with double lacerators with Jiafeng and any other lacerator in your team pretty much. So I think Jiafeng is pretty nice. I think the biggest downside of her in terms of how usable she's going to be is she isn't straightforward. She isn't easy to understand for a lot of people, and I think the majority of people who would want to buy characters don't want to have to think too hard in terms of what they want to do. They want a character where they're going to be killing a team really quickly without having to think. A character that will just one-shot somebody, and that's not going to be what Jiafeng brings. But if you have got coins saved up and you haven't got a lot of promo characters, she is going to be really good for you, because she'll fit into pretty much any team. She doesn't realistically need a leader bonus because her AP is so low. She is very defensive stat heavy, so she's going to be very, very defensive anyway. You can just obviously kit her out with defensive combat mods anyway, with the upgrades on her weapons, so on and so forth. And she has very nice compatibility with some free-to-play characters that have been recently released, Shiva and Lacerator Rick that were in the League store. She works great with another Lacerator character. And right now, versus these top-level teams, particularly the S-class teams, Lacerator is pretty much the best way to take on these teams unless you have S-class characters of your own, or high single hit damage, which isn't really widely available at the moment. We have had Morgan just hit the 5-star tokens, and he has pretty much the highest single hit damage that is like widely available right now. But that's the end of my video. That is Jiafeng. Do tell me what you think about this character. Thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.